Thanks for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and this is To the Point, where we take the time to go in depth into issues that are affecting the lives of Northern Californians. Man, I should add a cup of coffee before this show. We have a lot of ground to cover because it is crunch time at the Capitol. State Assembly members and senators have until the end of Wednesday to pass bills or they just get scrapped. So just a few hours ago, the state Senate passed the Fast Food Recovery Act, which is a bill that, if signed into law, would impact more than 500,000 fast food workers right here in California. The bill would create a 10-member council who would be responsible for setting standards for wages, working hours, and also workplace conditions. So the fast food industry leaders have argued that it will drive up consumer costs and ultimately be bad for business. Van 2 is live outside the Capitol right now to break down what just happened.
Well, Alex, this is a huge victory for fast food workers who have been fighting for these protections and these powers for at least 10 years. And even earlier this month, they even camped outside of the Capitol in support of this bill, the Fast Food Recovery Act, also known as AB 257. Now, proponents say it essentially gives workers and franchisees a seat at the table when it comes to setting the standards for the California fast food industry. Now, the Fast Food Council, as you mentioned, will include workers, government, and industry representatives. The bill will also allow cities and counties to establish its own fast food councils. Now, one fast food worker we spoke to today, speaking through a translator, says this could have impacts for generations to come.
Excited because we are fighting for a long time, for many years, and we know that it's going to affect our lives, that the workers that have been in this industry for many years, but also it's going to affect the new workers that just come to this industry to work.
Now, this bill not without fervent opposition from the fast food industry. The California Restaurant Association president calling it a bad bill. In a statement saying it will lead to new costs to taxpayers, new costs to consumers, up to 20% at the worst possible time, and confusion around who's in charge of adopting and enforcing labor law in California. It is astonishing to watch our state legislators give away their own lawmaking authority to an unelected group of political appointees in the form of a new sector council. Meanwhile, fast food workers obviously celebrating tonight, but they aren't quite at the finish line. This bill now heads to the governor's office, and he has not yet indicated whether he will sign it or veto it. Now, proponents of the bill, including SEI International and the Fight for 15 group, just wrapped up a press conference, so we will have much more on this developing story on Late News tonight at 11, Alex.
All right, Van, thank you. We appreciate it. Outside the Capitol, farm workers and their supporters are in the middle of a 24-hour vigil. Now, marchers with the United Farm Workers Labor Union ended their 24-day trek from Delano on Friday with a rally at the Capitol. So they are urging Governor Newsom to sign AB 2183, also known as the Agricultural Labor Relations Voting Choice Act. And AB 2183 would allow farm workers to vote in union elections by mail or in drop boxes. Now, Governor Newsom is set to veto the bill. ABC 10 political analyst Steve Swat weighed in on the disagreements that will likely prevent the bill from becoming a law.
There are a few hang-ups right now, and it generally revolves around the process of this election. Who can call this election? Who can basically say there's a hostile work environment? Is it the ALRB, the Agricultural Labor Relations Board, which the governor believes should have auspices over this entire process? Farm workers believe they should be able to call a hostile work environment. Another problem is that hang-up is that should growers be notified once this election starts? And the growers are saying no, they don't want to see that any bill that the governor signs, because they believe that could lead to voter intimidation. But it's interesting, though, the farm workers believe that they have given the governor 90%, their words, of what he wants. And so as they go to the negotiating table, they believe we've given enough. The governor needs to give something also. But of course, the governor has the upper hand because he has the final vote.
And in tonight's main point, the debate over zero bail policies in California. Senate Bill 262 was introduced as a zero bail bill in January of last year, but was shelved after the killing of Kate Tibbetts in her Land Park home by a man who had been released from prison earlier. Today, Kate's brother and others who oppose the bill say that Californians have already decided on the issue.
We'd like to remind you that the voters, your constituents, want bail. They want public safety. The voters made that very clear with the passage of Proposition 25 by 56%, which repealed SB 10. SB 10 was a direct assault on public safety and the constitutional rights of crime victims by attempting to create a zero bail policy. SB 262, as was previously stated, is clearly a backdoor attempt to usurp the will of the voters.
If passed and signed into law, the bill would prohibit costs related to conditions of release, such as the cost of an ankle monitor. And I want to bring in Sean Hawk. He's the vice president of About Progress, Not Perfection, a group that empowers people who have been incarcerated to get more insight into the California bail system. Okay, Sean, so is the California bail system, is it unequal?
I believe it is for the most part. It is meant to, originally it was meant to provide for or ensure that the person showed up so that way criminal liability could be assessed and the criminal action can be punished. But it later turned into a means of securing public safety. And then, of course, the way in which it becomes unequal is prosecutors use the conditions of confinement as a bludgeon to walk people into plea bargains that they otherwise would not have entered into.
And how can something like SB 262, how can it help people that are in pretrial detention?
Well, 262 can do a number of things to help people in pretrial detention. First of all, it gets them out of confinement so they can actually communicate with their attorney, secure an attorney that is not necessarily part of the public defender system, which is overworked. And it also allows for them to meet the needs of their family while the trial and the pretrial mechanism plays out so that way the fact-finding system can work.
And what about victims and their families? You know, those people that say this is just leaving the door open for people to reoffend. What would you say to those people?
Well, 262 doesn't really allow for that because for the most part, people who commit crimes against other persons are not qualified for a $0 bail or an emergency bail relief. So they're not going to be out to reoffend again unless, of course, the system doesn't work. Sometimes that happens, but for the most part, the system has to balance the need between the victims and the right of the accused, because keep in mind that if the person that is accused is innocent, then that person then becomes another victim. It becomes a victim of society. So there has to be a balance, and there's got to be, of course, some harmony with the victims of crime because they've been harmed. So there has to be a way to balance that. And I think 262 goes a long way in making that happen because it allows for, go ahead.
Sorry, Sean, we're just running out of time. I just want to get to one more question before we go here. The bail system, you said that there are also some things that go overlooked when we are taking a look at the bail system. Can you talk about some of the things that are overlooked?
Sure. Many of the things that are overlooked as far as the bail system is concerned are the impact on the family, the impact on the employability of the individual, of course, the character or how that person is looked at in community. So even if they are bailed out or released without any monetary bail to ensure their appearance, there's still going to be some kind of scarlet letter, if you will, attached to them. And then, of course, their families are going to suffer if they don't get bailed because most times, it's the breadwinner that gets incarcerated. And that's going to affect that family and affect the children as far as emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, it can be damaging.
All right, Sean, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. After hours on the launch pad, NASA scrubbed the launch of its Artemis 1 mission. But why is the United States trying to go to the moon again anyway?
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
That was John F. Kennedy declaring nearly 60 years ago that America would fly astronauts to the moon. Once again, NASA is preparing to do exactly that. Artemis 1 was expected to launch earlier today from Cape Canaveral over in Florida on Launch Pad 39B. And that's the same pad where Apollo 10 and 53 space shuttle missions began. But today's launch was scrubbed after multiple complications that ended with engine trouble.
Combination of not being able to get the engine 3 chilled down, and then the vent valve issue that they saw at the intertank really caused us to pause today, and we felt like we needed a little more time.
The next launch window for Artemis 1 starts Friday, September 2nd, and the plan is for the rocket to carry a capsule into orbit to test for astronauts, who will be aboard on 2024. Sorry, I was trying to look at those videos and pictures there. All right, some people are asking, why go to the moon again? NASA officials say that these moon missions are central to its human spaceflight program, including developing the science and technology to send humans to Mars. Yes, that's right. The future is here, people. NASA also adds that this is a future where NASA will land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, there are some big changes coming to Sacramento's Broadway, and they're trying to bring some people back to this area. Well, another Starbucks closed its doors in California. This time it was right here in our own backyard. The Starbucks over on Broadway and 15th Streets in Sacramento just closed last week with just 1 day's notice. And some are calling it the first Starbucks in Northern California to close its doors due to safety. The surrounding area is facing several challenges, leaving neighbors fearful it will only get worse.
There's a Starbucks on every corner, but this truly was one of our community coffee shops. And it's gone now. I no longer feel safe. The illegal drug trade is basically taking over Broadway.
Starbucks wasn't the only one to close its doors. Jamba Juice also left, and we spoke with the Land Park Community Association over the weekend. They and other community activists are pushing the city and state leaders to do more about crime and homelessness. Sacramento City Council member Katie Valenzuela blames other agencies for what is happening in the area. She says that solutions can only be reached with the partnership of Sacramento County and Caltrans, which has jurisdiction under the WX freeway a block away from the Starbucks.
The city does not manage substance abuse treatment services. The city does not manage reentry when folks get arrested for committing crimes. The city does not manage mental health. All of those functions fall squarely within the county of Sacramento. This is a situation where the city is cleaning up the mess of other jurisdictions.
ABC 10 reached out to Caltrans for comment, and we haven't received a response yet. But the county of Sacramento says that it's investing $181 million annually on current and new programs to address homelessness, behavioral health, and substance abuse crisis. But the city of Sacramento is looking for ways to revitalize Broadway. And if you're not familiar with the city block, here it is right here. You've likely driven on it. And Broadway is the major street that runs parallel to the WX freeway near downtown Sacramento. And for more than a decade, the city of Sacramento has been working on how to revitalize Broadway. Their solution is limiting the number of cars and creating more space for people. I got a closer look.
We'll be adding bike lanes, we'll be adding wider sidewalks, and we'll be taking Broadway itself down from 4 lanes down to 1 lane in each direction. And that's just going to be a tremendous change in the walkability and bikeability.
Joan Barucki is the executive director of the Greater Broadway Partnership, a group that oversees businesses and development in the area.
We need to slow down the traffic, and we need to increase the number of people who are out and about. The more people that are out and about, the more people visiting our businesses.
According to the city of Sacramento, about 1 in 4 people who live along the Broadway corridor walk, bike, or use public transit to get to work. That's about double the average for the rest of Sacramento. And the city says that the new road layout would lower the number of cars on Broadway each day from 16,000 down to 12,000. It's something Broadway business owners seem to generally agree with, like Jim Seaman, who's the owner of the iconic Tower Cafe.
We're looking forward to moving the traffic a little bit away from us.
We've had the building struck by actual vehicles. I've witnessed, since I've been in the position myself, multiple car accidents locally that are usually just because there's a lot of cars on the road.
Traffic safety is a large reason why the project has chosen to focus on these areas. This shows where the most crashes along Broadway have occurred. The size of the circle shows the number of crashes. The color shows if the crash was between two cars, a car and a bike, or a car and a pedestrian. Affordable housing is another reason for the change. Baruki says there's already a housing project in the works for the corner of Broadway and 19th Street.
On the northeast corner is a project by EAH Housing that's going to provide affordable housing units. And they've secured a record amount of funding through state grants to produce that project. 51 apartments with some supportive services as well as some ground floor retail.
And another on 16th, built on the former site of Tower Records.
The developer of that is looking to pay a little bit of homage to the history of the site, as well as what we're trying to do with the district. That project will be market rate apartments, but it'll have ground floor retail space.
It's absolutely important. It's tantamount to, keeping it thriving and popular like it has been over the 30-plus years we've been here.
The project, called the Broadway Complete Street Project, will cost around $10 million to complete, and construction for the street project itself is expected to start next spring. And you already know, we're going to continue to follow this project right here on To The Point. So overall, the Broadway Complete Street Project will add at least 4 more crosswalks, make sidewalks wider, and then crossing distances shorter, and leave room eventually to add more benches, dining space, and shade. And speaking of all that shade, we are going to all want some shade in the days and weeks to come. New weather models suggest that there is a potentially extremely prolonged heat wave on the way. It will build over the western states through the Labor Day weekend, of course, and then Oregon's governor just declared a state of emergency on Sunday due to the imminent threat of wildfire. Meteorologist Brandon Minchef explains what the heck is going on.
So we were a little cooler this weekend. We had this low pressure just off the coast, but that's opening up, it's weakening, and in its place, high pressure is building in. It's going to send our temperatures back into those upper 90s, and certainly by the time we get towards this coming weekend, well above 100 degrees. But what does high pressure have to do with temperature? What is even high pressure? Well, high pressure simply is just sinking air, and sinking air dries and warms as it goes from the middle of the atmosphere down towards the surface. Sinking air is also stable air. There's no moisture in there. There's nothing there to create storms, nothing there to help create that lift. All that air is sinking to the bottom, which is not what you get when you talk about thunderstorms, when we talk about any sort of rain or anything like that, even clouds. That's why it is stable air. It's also dense air, as you have all this air, all this pressure now at the surface as air flows from the top of the atmosphere down to the bottom. That also helps to keep us a little warmer. So when we get a strong high pressure like we're going to see this weekend, we can see some very high temperatures as well.
All right, let's take a look at our Gilmore backyard. No surprise, the heat came just in time for Labor Day weekend. All right, Sacramento is seeing 89, Modesto at 91, getting straight to your 10-day forecast. Let's take a look at this weekend. Yeah, Saturday, 108, Sunday, 111, Monday, no cooler, seeing 110. Make sure that you stay hydrated, take care of yourself and your pets. We'll be right back. Boy, this felt like a Monday. That's all I can say. Now, if you missed any part of our show, make sure that you look us up on YouTube. We have our full shows as well as our segments there, or you can find us on ABC 10 Plus. If you have Amazon Fire or Roku, you can also stream the show there as well. We hope you had a great night. Don't forget, always reach out to us. We love hearing from you. We love all the emails, comments, and feedback. And if you have something you want us to look at, make sure that you reach out to us. We'll see you later. Have a great Monday.